Hi, I'm Brian Lord, President of Premier Speakers Bureau, and I'm excited today to have with us Elisabeth Hasselbeck. So Elisabeth, thank you so much for coming on today.
Well, thanks for having me here. We get to chat about chatting and talking and being with some special people eventually.
Yes, definitely. Well, you're known for so many things, for The View, for Fox News, for Survivor, so many things. And but one thing a lot of people don't know about you, and it's kind of where you came up with the idea of living life like a walk-on. And I love that story. So where did living life like a walk-on come from in your story?
Well, I live life like a walk-on, and it really, I think, started, I went to Boston College, and I had played basketball through high school, and my dad really let me believe that if I worked hard enough, that I could be in the WNBA. I mean, I'm 5'4". I'm from Providence, Rhode Island. I was shooting hoops in my street and driveway until dark every single night thinking this could happen. I'll call it the best lie that was ever taught to me, but I really do think in my dad's great heart, he wanted me to feel like if I worked hard enough for something, I could get it. It was a huge gift. I went to Boston College and he said, why don't you try out, maybe not for the basketball team, they're Division I Big East Championship, so why don't you try out for the softball team? And I thought, Dad, you're crazy. So I went out there and I ran harder than I've ever run in my life. I picked up every ball, I picked up every bat, and I swung and missed at every single ball. And at the end of the week of tryouts at college, when I could have been out doing, I don't know what, like partying, or so I was up at 5 a.m. working out, I made the team. And I made it as a walk-on. It wasn't never that scholarship kid that was being recruited. But what I learned is that hard work did pay off, that my dad's advice that he put in my heart actually could amount to something. And I got in there and I worked so hard. I literally polished all the bats, cleaned the gloves, tried to hit lefty, continued to strike out, and eventually made my way to be a starter in left field and then a captain my senior year. And it was really a storybook moment for me. But I've never taken for granted the fact that I wasn't sought after. I just had to work hard and keep working hard and keep cleaning bats. And I think in any job that I had, I worked for Puma. I had never designed shoes before. That was dangerous to hire me. I was sketching things I had no idea. All the designers around me had come from the car industry. They knew industrial design. I just wanted to make a pretty shoe. It was really scary what I was doing, but I worked so hard and I had great mentors and coaches and teachers even then. The View, another story. I wasn't trained in broadcasting. I just had to get in there and learn inside the depths of each building and corporation and group that I worked with. I've had to learn like a walk-on and run like a walk-on and work hard like a walk-on, and I've never been able to shake that mentality. And I really believe that has gotten me just not only to the point of these opportunities, but through them. And it's okay. I'm never going to be the best person in the room, but I might try to run harder than everybody else, and I might try to stay later, and I might try to research more, and that's something that can work for or against you in different ways. And what I've learned as well through the process, God's really put it on my heart that in faith, it's the one place that I don't have to have that one walk-on mentality, that I don't have to earn. I don't have to polish 10 more bats. I don't have to clean 10 more gloves. I don't have to scoop up every single ball and run sprints harder and find my teammate that didn't want to run her sprints and run them for her. I don't have to do any of that for this great God, because he's the one person, one being that has recruited me. He's recruited you already. I am never recruited, okay? I have never been recruited. I've just always shown up and outrun somebody. And it was such a great revelation on my heart to think, gosh, this walk-on girl, you've finally been able to see that God's recruited you from day one. He knows exactly how you're made. He loves you and wants you just like that. And he's already paid the debt with Christ. Knocks me out every time I think about it. But every other area of my life, and it's not one that's easily surrendered in my mind, because I think if I could just run one more sprint, if I could just do one more thing right, and mind you, I'm not type A. I just work hard like one, and tend to fall short most of the time, but I will work, my effort will always be there. So to surrender that to God has not always been easy, but I love what that mentality has done for me in the workplace. And I pray my kids, no matter how talented or blessed or fortunate or sought after that they are, never give up the idea that they should play hard, work hard like a walk-on. And the only area where they don't have to is in their faith.
Now, your life and sort of all the unexpected twists and turns have brought you to some pretty crazy places. What's the most unexpected place that you've found yourself?
Well, I have a lot of places, like, let's just start with Australia. The Australian outback was fairly unexpected. I feel like my life is a series of how did I get here? Like, how did I get here? I mean, I look at my husband the other day, we unpacked this box of this picture, and it was a picture where we're standing all dressed up next to the Queen of England. And we're reminiscing about this night where we got invited to the state dinner. And I'm at the View pretty early on, and I bring this invite. I mean, it was fancy, and I'm not fancy. This fancy invite came in, and it was like thick and goldish and fancy writing, and it said, a state dinner. You've been invited to the White House state dinner with the Queen of England. And so, of course, I bring it to Barbara Walters, and she says, darling, you must go. I said, well, Barbara, it's on this night. I have Grace, and I think she has a swim lesson, and I think it would be hard to make work and get there. Darling, you must. So I go, I get dressed up. We're there, and I'm thinking, this is like, why are we invited here? Like, this, why are we here? We get in, there's violins, small tables. I mean, this is a group of about maybe 50 people. And so we get separated. They don't sit you with your spouses or who you came with. We're at different tables. And all of a sudden I find myself at the table. Oh, prior to that, Barbara Walters, I asked her great advice. So Barbara, upon my presenting the invitation to her and telling me I must go, she said, darling, you must go. And just do whatever the Queen does. Okay. So I get dressed, I go, and I'm thinking, Barbara said, just do whatever the Queen does. Well, I find myself at a table with, it's probably maybe 10 people deep, maybe 8. Pretty intimate setting in this room, and there are maybe 6 other tables just like it. The table next to me is the Queen. I mean, I could stretch out my arm and touch her table, and I'm in clear eye shot of her. Next to me is Jeb Bush. On the other side is Prince Philip, lady in waiting, Condoleezza Rice. I am so far in over my head, and I am hungry. Did I mention I was pregnant? So I am sitting there, hungry, pregnant, thirsty, sitting with people talking about national security and global issues that I am still just trying to figure out. In my eyesight, I see the Queen. So when she grabs her glass, I grab my glass. I hear Barbara Walters in my head, just do whatever the Queen does. So I do. She puts her glass down, fine. Now, I'm also celiac. So I'm hungry, I'm pregnant, I'm celiac. That means I'm gluten-free. So nothing there seems safe for me to eat. Well, finally, I remember reading something about a rose-infused dessert or drink, something that was coming away, and I thought, well, surely there's no gluten in rose-infused whatever it is. The table gets set with the rose-infused whatever it is, and I think, finally, I can have something. I reach down, I go to grab the rose bowl, and I start to sip it, and all of a sudden I feel a hand on me putting it down saying, you're not going to want to do that. It's Jeb Bush. And I look at him thinking, he said, that's for your hands? And I literally put it down. I'm like, I don't belong here. I don't belong here. I should be home with my baby. And I'm just in this situation with the Queen, lady in waiting. Everybody's dipping their hands. I'm drinking the rose water, and Jeb Bush saves my life. I mean, it was, all I could do was just wish for the moment where we could leave and go get a gluten-free pizza. But I do say it was such an honor to be there. But I didn't belong there. I somehow walked into the White House and walked onto that situation, and I'm not guessing at this point that I survived it well, but it gives us a laugh to this day.
Now, one of the things you also talk about is sort of balancing life and family as a professional woman. What advice would you give to other professional women as they're kind of going through that?
I think one of the most deceiving words for a working woman is balance, because it just doesn't exist. You're not balancing anything. I think a couple of things that I've learned along the way are that both working men and women, I believe now, because we're accessible at all hours of the day through social media, through our devices, there's no real defined line on the workday. That currency right now for, I think, many working moms and perhaps dads too, is time. So it's really defining your time and being able to shut off. Even now with the projects that I'll work on, and they're so much less than I have in the past, there's always been a time of day, after school till bedtime, no phone. Like, I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not looking at my emails. I'm not doing this during homework time. I'm not getting distracted. I don't want to be that parent who's constantly with the child begging for me to look up. I don't want to do that. And I think personally it's been beneficial to draw those lines, but I think really being a good teammate has always been my goal in the workplace. And I think it's just being there and also connecting personally with people at work is important, and understanding what their strengths are, and being okay to find a mentor. Finding mentors throughout my career has been crucial. having someone that's willing to take the time to teach you a trade or answer your questions is key. And I think as a working woman, the challenge is just finding that currency of time where you are. I think a lot of the ability to shift your hours or command your schedule comes with a ranking. So if you can educate yourself enough, work hard enough, and get to a place, that's one avenue to command your schedule and have the time based on your needs. But you can't necessarily always have it all. And I personally could not do all that I was able to do without my husband. I wish I were that woman thinking, maybe, I don't know. I just know that he has been my ultimate support in every area of my career, from jumps to failures. He's been a real rock for me, and it's allowed me to kind of excel or kind of kick it into neutral when I needed to. So that has been a huge blessing for me. And I just think it's a matter of just making your time count. I do think women are exceptional at being wonderfully productive for bursts of time. It's just, we're good at it. We're really good at it. And so I think what I've been able to see in the women that I've worked with is your powerhouses when you need to be. And I think that we're just made that way, and we can kind of work in different areas of the day. And I would hope that the corporate world will reflect the fact that women can get a lot done when the kids go to bed. Let me tell you, my hours from 8 to midnight or 8 to 11, they're amazing what can be done in those hours. I mean, because I know that's a time that's quiet. I know that I can get work done. I know that I can write during that time. And so if there's a career where you can accelerate in the hours where your kids are sleeping, or be able to be there at the time when you feel appropriate, and also changes as kids get older. You know, my kids need me after school a lot. You know, and they need my mind to be okay so that I can look at that math that they're doing.
Yeah.
There are different rules with multiplication now. So I think it's a matter of evaluating your schedule as a mom based on your kids' needs. And also, I had a working mom growing up my whole life. I called her and I said, Mom, how did you do this? I mean, I am feeling like a failure. I had the most epic fail. And she said, Elisabeth, there weren't as many demands as working moms back then. I had 2 days a year where I maybe had to be in the school. It's a blessing we get to be there, but it's amazing and a miracle I'm even allowed in schools, because my daughter, she was 3 years old, about to go into preschool, had her backpack, I think it was Dora. She had her bow ready for the picture, because they have that special first day of school picture. We're in New York City. She was ready to go. We're in Central Park, and I'm thinking, we're ready for tomorrow. I am so ahead of the game. It's my first baby, first day of school. I'm awesome at this mom thing. We're walking in Central Park. I get a call on my cell. I pick it up. Hello, hi, Mrs. Hasselbeck. This is Claremont School, Mrs. So-and-so. I'm wondering if Grace is still planning on attending school this year. I said, she is so excited. Thank you for being so kind and calling. She can't wait for tomorrow. Neither can we. We've got her bow, her backpack. She cannot wait for her first day tomorrow. And she said, I'm so sorry, Mrs. Hasselbeck. The first day of school was today. I mean, the scream that went through Central Park should have commanded the entire NYPD to descend upon this mom freaking out in the middle of the grass. I, in a moment, sort of found it possible to blame my husband, then reeled it back to the pathetic mom that I was. I mean, epic mom fail. Not only did I miss our first day of school for preschool, it was the first day ever. It wasn't like first day of third grade. It was first day ever. This was like the moment that you're not supposed to miss. Total swing and miss. And I'm afraid of her never forgiving me for that. But I think I really imprisoned myself in my mind for, I don't know, maybe 10 years about that. Because it's how do you do that? You line up everything and you're going to have these moments of failure. And I think particularly for a working mom, you have a lot of those. But I've noticed since stepping out in this area of quiet, you still have them. I was talking to a friend the other day who was thinking about kind of taking it into a more, I should say, a less demanding schedule career-wise. And I said to her, I just want to be honest with you. You don't fail less when you aren't working anymore or in a different pace level than you were. You're still going to totally fail at things, unless it's just me, because I've completely forgot the candy project this week. Just like the first day of school. That doesn't change. You're not going to all of a sudden be a perfect mom because you're not going into the office. You're still going to, I just want you to know before you make this decision, you're still going to fail at a lot. And she was shocked. But I thought too, once I calm things down, I'm going to be perfect at this whole mom thing now. And there are plenty of moments and opportunities to fail throughout the day, and I seem to find a lot of them.
Yeah. Now, one of the people you mentioned a minute or so ago was your mom, and I know that one of the things you like to speak on, just because it's so important to you and your family, is breast cancer and breast cancer survivors. What do you speak on when you talk to audiences about that?
I really have such respect for my mom. She went through breast cancer at an early age. She was in her young 40s. It was my 18th birthday when she was diagnosed. I can remember being on the softball field in high school, and I was playing shortstop. My dad was never late to any of my games, and he worked hard. He was an architect and found a way somehow to make it to every single one of my games. And I looked up on the hill, and I didn't see him, and I thought, well, that's weird. He's usually here. It's not cold. He's not in his car. I remember a ball being hit, getting the ball. I can't remember if I made the play or not, but I can just remember that clay and the smell of it and the dirt, and then seeing him pull up late on the hill and going up, and I knew something was wrong. And it was the day my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. And she went through her treatment and her time in a really quiet way. There weren't pink hats at this time. There weren't walks. And she was such a faithful woman and battled this cancer with such bravery that I think back to that time, and it really made me strong, because I always had something, I had this point in my life to refer to. Like, if she can do that, then I can do this. If I can see her walk through that, then I can know that at some point when something comes my way, I can walk through that too. I saw her really lean into her faith. I saw her, when her head was shaven and her eyes looked at me, I saw at the same time these little eyes, these almost like a baby, but the strength of a lion. I thought, this woman is so strong. And her mom was diagnosed with breast cancer young. Her mom's mom, the same. My dad's mom. It's all over my family. And so for me, knowing what these women have battled and knowing the support that there is right now and the early detection, at the same time, I both feel as though it's coming my way at some point. I pray not, but genetics alone would probably say I'm wrong. I make it a priority to just keep on early detection, maintain great relationships with these incredible physicians who do great work, and just talk about it, because I think the more we talk about it, the more people will go. Grab a buddy. I believe in really having an accountability friend to say, let's go get our mammograms together. Let's go get checked together. Let's make sure we get ahead of this. And that's my goal. Get ahead of it and understand the community around it is so great. I can remember the first race and walk that I did with my mom. I have the picture. I keep it at an arm's reach at all times. It was the first time that she celebrated all that she went through. Mm-hmm. And this was years after her experience. And the great news is we have incredible progress in medicine. We have a really powerful, strong-hearted group of women who further that through how vocal they are. And I pray that God would walk me through that time, should it come, with as much grace and strength as my mom had. And it's not an end. We see so many women living through this and getting through this, and even coming out stronger on the other side. And so that's my prayer, my hope for all those who would be affected and their families. I think when you see, I wouldn't wish it upon anybody, but I definitely believe that my mom's walk through breast cancer gave me a grit and a determination and a point of dedication in doing things. I went to Australia for Survivor, and I remember wearing on this little headdress I built this pink scarf. It was a pink bandana, and I wore it for my mom. And when things got tough, I needed that visual to say, look what she was able to do. This isn't that hard by comparison, or just dedicated to her strength. It gave me a point of reference for the rest of my life that I'm so thankful for. I wish I could take that time away from her, but I know that in that period of life, God also birthed in me a grit and a determination that I don't know if I would have had it or found it as early. But it's there.
Now, one final question, and I know we've talked about some serious things, and you have, just being around you, you have amazing stories on so many different areas, but what's one, my wife would be upset if I didn't ask you this, so what's one good story from The View?
The hardest question. I blocked most of them out. the richness of stories that come from behind those walls is pretty incredible. I will say, God really gave me Sherry. When Sherry came through those doors, it was like a light in a dark cave. And she'd come through the office and she'd grab her high heels. She always had these high heels. I mean, maybe, I don't know how she walked in them, but she was smart. She didn't put them on until we got upstairs. So our offices were on the base floor. And she'd grab her shoes in her hand. They were usually like velvet, but a color. And she'd kind of wiggle over to my office. She'd say, girl, we need to pray. And we would hole up in my office and just pray in my office and just remind ourselves that we had an audience of one, that at the end of the day, we probably were going to let down at least 500,000 people by something we said, no pressure, but that we have this great God, and that if we aim to just operate within His will and honor Him with our words, then, that's a good day. And so we would always have this audience of one. We'd text it to each other. We'd email it to each other. And in between talks of like wigs and undergarments and pants and shirts and dresses and hot topics, like that was the constant theme that I was so thankful when she walked through those doors, because God, I think, knew I needed a Sherry. And that is just the forever gift to me, forever gift. And there's some stories behind those walls. I'm always able to pick them up when I'm talking about something. I think, you know what, that reminds me of a time when Barbara has given me some of the best advice. And you know what I learned from her more than anything is to be prepared to be unprepared. Always. I remember that one story, this is kind of wild. We had interviewed any president or candidate for the election, president-elect that had happened. I mean, it's a 10-year span, so you can think about from President Clinton to President Bush to first ladies to the candidates' wives. And President Obama was actually coming in to be interviewed, and our whole office went into, I mean, you would have thought like it was they were going to like determine the rest of what was happening in the world there. It's like it became the White House. So we have Secret Service all around and dogs, and I was pretty nervous because I was coming in as the one voice on the other side that would maybe, in my mind, ask some more pointed questions. But I also wanted to get some human questions in there too. And the office was so surrounded by Secret Service. And they said, listen, we have 4 hours between the first show, which was live, and the second one, which the president's going to come. And I thought, what am I going to do here? I've been working on these questions. Producer comes in, I'd like your questions. I said, I'm not going to incriminate anybody with what I'm going to ask the president. I'm going to ask him what I'm going to ask him. You're not going to see it. It's all on my notes. So I had this feeling that I should take my notes with me just in case. So I thought, what better way to spend the afternoon and get my nerves out than run Central Park. So I get my notes written in a Sharpie on my blue cards as always, extra Sharpie, and I stick them in a Ziploc bag and I put them in my fleece. And I hit Central Park and I run the 6-mile loop thinking, I have time to get back and get in our locker room and shower and get presentable for the President of the United States. We get back there. 2 hours pass. We're in a holding room. I'm sweaty. I'm like salty at this point. I mean, it is not good. Okay, this is like an opportunity of a lifetime to ask your president a question. Politics aside, it's a huge honor. This is amazing. I had 2 great questions. One about the economy and one about how he governs his daughter's social media. Just because here's the president, basically like the dad of our country. How do you parent your girls when it comes to social media and Instagram and all of that? I don't even know if Instagram was up, but I was curious. So I had all these questions written out and I was ready. I had 5 minutes to get ready for this presidential interview. I mean, I have never changed so quickly in my life. I went unshowered. It took everything in me just not to confess in front of the president, like, do you know I was just running? I am so sorry that I am just inappropriately not brushed right now. But it's one of those things that I was so thankful because I never made it back into my office. They continued to have dogs sniffing around the premise. And if I had not taken my notes with me, then I would have been scrambling just to try to find my research, and who knows, they turned everything upside down. But I was prepared to be unprepared, and I think it's a running theme in my life as well, that you can prepare, and I prepare. I mean, I research. I don't want to let my team down, and I walk on. But to be prepared for that moment where something changes, I think is a difference maker when it comes to office relationships, to office work ethic, to something going wrong, to a sale falling through, to a client not being there, to getting fired, to all of these things that happen in your life, and personally and in your career, you need to be as prepared to be unprepared as you are prepared. And that is something for me that has been worth its weight in gold. And it takes a lot of faith and it takes a lot of surrender, but that has been a huge lesson in my life, is just being as prepared to be unprepared as you are prepared.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, thank you so much, Elisabeth, for coming on. We really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. It's a lot of fun.
This is fun. We've got a great group here.
Thank you.